What if the best way to get a really smart answer from an AI wasn't just to ask it a question, but to actually make it argue with itself? It sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, let's dive into some fascinating new research that does exactly that, where AIs literally go head-to-head to make better financial decisions.
And this isn't science fiction. We're talking about the high-stakes world of corporate credit assessment. Think about it. Lenders have to decide if a company can actually repay a massive loan. And more, they're looking to AI to help make that critical call. But, and this is the big but, how do you build an AI that you can actually trust with a decision that big?
Well, here's the heart of the problem. Figuring out if a company is truly creditworthy, it's just incredibly difficult. It's not just about crunching the numbers, right? You have to weigh all these other factors, everything from what's happening in their industry to how good their management team is.
So, for a human expert, this whole process is mentally draining, and it takes a ton of time. We're talking hours just to produce a single report. And on top of that, the analysis can get skewed by our own unconscious biases. So, researchers looked at this and saw a huge opportunity. They asked, hey, could an AI make this whole thing faster, more consistent, and maybe even more rigorous?
All right, so the first and probably the most obvious idea was to build a single, super smart AI analyst. You can just picture it, right? An AI expert that can hoover up all the data and spit out a report, just like a human, but way, way faster. So they called this the Single Agent System, or SAS for short. Its job was pretty straightforward. Just take in all of a company's data, find the good signals, find the bad signals, and then weave it all together into one balanced report. Kind of like a lone genius, working away in isolation.
And the way it works, as you can see, is super straightforward. Data comes in from all over the place, the SAS agent does its thing, and boom, out comes a report. It's clean, it's direct, it's incredibly efficient. But is efficiency really the whole story here?
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. A second team of researchers came along with a totally different approach. They thought, what if, instead of just one AI voice, you created an entire AI debate club?
Now, the whole philosophy behind this is pretty cool. It comes from something called the argumentative theory of reasoning. And the basic idea is this. We find the truth not by thinking all by ourselves, but by having to defend our ideas against criticism from others. It's basically a trial by fire for our arguments.
And that's exactly what they built. They called it the Popperian Multi-Agent Debate System. Yeah, it's a mouthful. Let's just call it PMADS. And it's basically an AI with a split personality. You got 6 AI agents, and they're split into 2 teams of 3. There's an affirmative team arguing for the company's financial health and a negative team arguing against it.
And listen, this isn't just some chaotic free-for-all argument. No, they follow a very formal structure called a Karl Popper debate, which is named after a famous philosopher of science. And the whole point here is to actively try to prove ideas wrong. The goal isn't to win the debate, it's to find the truth by seeing which arguments can survive the toughest criticism. It really is survival of the fittest, but for ideas.
So, how does this AI debate actually play out? Well, it's a pretty intense 10-step process, but it basically boils down to these 4 main phases. First, you've got the opening arguments, where each team makes its case. Then, they cross-examine each other, picking apart the other side's points. After that comes the rebuttals, where they defend their own positions, and finally, they wrap it all up with closing statements. It's a complete, structured debate, all happening inside a computer.
All right, so now we have our 2 contenders. In one corner, the super fast lone analyst, and in the other, the rigorous AI debate club. To figure out which one was really better, the researchers pit them head-to-head and also against the original gold standard, actual human experts.
First up, let's set the baseline. Your average human financial pro. It takes them about 1900 seconds, that's roughly 32 minutes, to get through just one of these analyses, okay? Keep that number in your head.
Okay, now get ready for this. The lone analyst AI, it did the exact same task in 11.6 seconds. That is a productivity boost of over 160 times. I mean, that is just absolutely mind-blowing.
So what about the AI debate club? It clocked in at around 92 seconds. Now look, that's still more than 20 times faster than a person, which is incredible. But it's also about 8 times slower than the lone analyst. So that sets up the big question, right? What are you actually getting for all that extra processing time? And that's the key, isn't it? Because speed isn't everything. A super fast answer is pretty useless if it's shallow or you can't rely on it. The real test here is about the quality and the depth of the reasoning. Which AI actually came up with a better, more useful report?
And this right here is where the debate club just completely changes the game. When the researchers analyzed the reports, they found the lone analyst was broad but shallow. It touched on a lot of different topics, but it only ever went one level deep. The debate club, on the other hand, was a little narrower, but it went way deeper, with arguments going back and forth for up to 3 levels. This is all measured by something called the REI score, which is just a fancy way of saying how complex the reasoning is. And as you can see, the debate club score was nearly double. It wasn't even close.
Okay, so the numbers from the machine are pretty clear. But what did actual people think? The researchers took these reports to real financial professionals, and they didn't tell them which AI wrote which. And the results? They found the lone analyst reports were, well, adequate. Just okay. But they rated the reports from the debate club as significantly better. They said the arguments were just way more useful for making a real-world decision.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway from this showdown? Well, the results really point to a pretty fundamental choice we have to make as we're designing these incredibly powerful new AI systems.
And this really sums up the central trade-off perfectly. On one hand, you've got the lone analyst. It's blazing fast, which is awesome for a quick first look or for screening a ton of different companies. But on the other hand, you have the debate club. It's a bit slower, sure, but it delivers that deep, rigorous, and frankly more trustworthy analysis that you really want when the stakes are high.
So why does any of this matter to you and me? Because this is so much bigger than just finance. This whole experiment shows that we can build AI to be more than just a mysterious black box that just spits out answers. By forcing an AI to argue and defend its points, we can actually see its reasoning, which makes it way more transparent and trustworthy. I mean, just imagine AI debate teams helping doctors figure out a complex diagnosis or helping lawyers prepare for a big case. This is really a step towards creating AI that helps us make better decisions.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty huge question for the future, doesn't it? As we start to hand over more and more of our critical thinking to machines, we have to ask ourselves, what do we really value more? Raw, unmatched speed, or deep, undeniable rigor? Because when it comes to the decisions that matter most, the future might not belong to the fastest AI, but to the one that can win the best argument.